Detective Comics number 19, written by John Layman, art by Jason Fabok. So, if they didn't restart the numbering of Detective Comics with the new 52, this would have been issue 900 of Detective Comics. And I feel like it's having your cake and eating it too to celebrate that when you did the renumbering. But regardless, they did it, and this comic ends up being an 80-pager. I am not going to cover all 80 pages. I'm going to cover the first story, which is by the creative team before and after this issue. I'll get to the other stuff some other time. But this particular story follows Man-Bat. So over in Batman Incorporated, Man-Bat serum has been a thing. It has not been a thing otherwise, and they're just introducing it here. So we see a whole bunch of Man-Bats flying around, and man standing out at the window saying, I did this to Gotham. And turns out this man is Kirk Langstrom. And his wife comes up saying, Henny, you need to get away from the window. It's dangerous. And he's like, but I can do something. I can help them. I can help fix Gotham. This is the only difference I can make, Francine. I just hope it's the right one. And we see him holding a bottle of Man-Bat serum. Cut to not even an hour earlier, there are no Man-Bats. And Batman's talking about a block of Gotham between 9th and 10th Avenues that are called the 900s. Get it? And it turns out that this isn't really a crime area. Like, Batman doesn't have to spend a lot of time here. These are pretty well-off people and very good. And we see this mother has a sick baby, and the store is just closing, but she needs to buy some medicine. Store owner lets her in, and she starts collapsing, saying, oh, whatever's wrong with my son must be wrong with me too. And she sits back up, and both her and the baby have Man-Bat hide. So, cut to now, the city's overrunning with Man-Bats. It's a highly contagious virus that has spread amongst the city block. All the people here have become Man-Bats, and Batman's just trying to take them down without killing them, hoping that he can figure out some sort of cure, because he knows that these are normal people. And so he fights one of them off, tackles it down to the ground, and gets a blood sample, which he sends over to Alfred, who's in the cave, to analyze it. And he's like, yeah, no, we can analyze the blood, we can do that stuff, but it's still going to take time to get a full reversal thing. And he's like, okay, well, we don't have time. And they talk about Victor Zsasz very briefly. He was released at the end of the last issue, or at least he's been around at the end of the last issue, and he's been killing a bunch of people. And Batman's like, I'm going to deal with him. He's a whole different thing. I'm really kind of pressed on this Man-Bat thing at the moment. So what else do we got? And as he's talking to Alfred, he says, like, well, maybe you should call in the family. Maybe have, I don't know, even like Red Hood show up, because this is kind of a big deal. And Batman's like, nah, I got it. You just deal with looking after the toxin thing. So he goes and attacks some more Man-Bats, and we see that he actually did try calling in Batgirl, and she just didn't answer. She was already on the case, though, just didn't want to bother telling Bruce. And Dick apparently was already on his way out of Gotham to go to Chicago, because that's just going to be something that happens in the next issue of Nightwing, and the editor's note really wants you to know that. So at this point, Batman's still dealing with the Man-Bats. He uses a bunch of sonic weaponry to disable them because they can't handle their enhanced hearing. And using cell phone data of all the people who were calling 911 and like mapping it by time, they figured out that the epicenter of all this was a specific apartment in a specific building. So he breaks into that building, and he sees a dead body in there, and there's this knife in the back that he has a owl's head on the dagger, and he's like, that's weird and something I don't really want to deal with right now. But he sees this blue goop stuff on the body, and he's like, oh, this is the same serum that was used to make Man-Bats in Batman Incorporated. I think this is Talia's work. This is all Talia. I gotta deal with this. So then he gets snuck up on from behind. Turns out it's Man-Batified Zsasz. He is after Batman. He's using all the stuff, and he's like, okay, but he's still kind of stupid because he's just Man-Batified, so I'm just going to wrap him up in a grappling hook and tackle him out the window. And so he does and takes him down. Batwoman shows up for a single panel and doesn't do anything except say, I'm here to help Gotham, not you. Because over in Batwoman, she's doing a thing as well. But then at that point, Francine and Kirk Langstrom show up, and they're like, hi, we're scientists, we're geneticists, and by the way, this is all my fault. And Batman's like, oh, okay, it wasn't my It wasn't my ex. That's good to know. And Kirk says, yeah, well, I didn't like spread it out. I didn't do it. I just made the serum, and it was to like try to help deaf people because I was using bat DNA to do that. But clearly it didn't quite work. So anyway, here's the plan. I'm going to undo all this by making a counter virus that will only cause the man-bat looking symptoms if you have a very specific DNA genetic code. And then he stabs himself with it and he says, it just so happens to be my genetic code, which I don't understand as to why he couldn't just make it like the DNA of someone who's dead. You'd think that would work just as well, but I guess he needs to be a man-bat in order to spread it. So either way, his wife's freaking out like, oh, Kirk, you didn't say you do this. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. There's no time. I have to do this to save Gotham. So he becomes a man-bat. He punches Batman in the face without thinking about it and then flies off. And as he's flying over Gotham, the antidote is spread and everybody is saved from being man-bats. Victor Zsasz is put into chains and he's being arrested, sent back to Arkham. And he says, the Birdman gave me the knife and a jar of the blue stuff. And Batman's like, you mean Penguin? Penguin's in jail since last issue. We got him arrested. He's like, no, not the little Birdman. The big Birdman. The Emperor Penguin. And then we see Emperor Penguin, Ogilvy, is full on groping Poison Ivy saying, hey, I saved your life. You owe me a favor. I'm here to collect. And that's the first story of the 80 pages. Again, I'll get to the other stuff some other time, but this felt more like an ad for just, hey, what's going on in the Bat family? Because clearly everyone's pissed off with Batman because of death of the family. Then we have Batgirl, who's got her own book. Then we've got Nightwing, who's doing his own thing. Then Batwoman shows up for a single panel saying, by the way, I have a book as well. And all of them had editor's notes saying, check out this thing. It just felt like this was an ad more so than an actual story that needed to be told. And the fact that it's all cured now, like at the end of the last issue of Detective Comics, the whole thing was that Ogilvy got his hands on the Man-Bat serum. And it's just fixed. It's just done. Like, there's no stakes here anymore. I don't understand what's even going on with the Emperor Penguin storyline, which has been an issue for the entire story because they have constantly had to put it on the back burner for event after event after event. And I feel very bad for the writers, or the writer, John Layman. But yeah, no, it's just not really clicking. There's no cohesive story to like, what is Emperor Penguin's like master plan? Clearly it is to take over Penguin's role, but he looks like he has all these machinations and then they all end up being nothing. So I don't know. I hope this thing can manage to pull it together before we're really done with the story, but I'm not sure even how much longer we have with Emperor Penguin. I don't think it's much longer, honestly. So here's hoping. I'm going to give it, this particular one, the art is great. I like the origin for Man-Bat in this. It's decent, especially when you've got Man-Bats already existing. It's a clever way to get around it. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'll give it a 7.5. It's just lacking that 8 quality that I'm looking for, but it's still very good. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens next issue, but it's anyone's guess at this point.